queremos invitarlos a disfrutar de una presentación muy especial. Es de Avinash Vashistha. Él es presidente y director general de Tholons, expresidente y director general de Accenture en India, y nos va a hablar sobre, atención, la transformación digital para empresas e instituciones. Bienvenido.
Well, good afternoon.
Gracias.
It's a pleasure to be over here. I guess this is my favorite city. Plus obviously the neighboring city, Montevideo, home for Fabrizio. But this was the city that we came in together 10 years ago. And so really very, very pleased to be here today. I think today I'm going to talk about some of my experiences of running large digital transformation while I was heading Accenture, and then since then. I think, let me just see a clicker. Okay. How many of you know about Uber? A lot of you, fine. I think Uber is one of the most visible example of digital transformation at scale. Now, what happened out there? First is reimagining the entire business of taxis itself. You reimagine the consumer experience. That's what the unique thing was. But the problem is, how do you make that vision, that dream? Because you have asking the customer to dream what they want the experience to be. And how do you implement that dream? Because most technology guys will say, not possible. And so the first thing is that when you're dreaming about the consumer experience, you really don't want the technology guys to speak. They can listen. But at the same time, you have to go out there and see what innovation in which corner of the world is happening to implement that dream. And chances are it's not where you live and in the company that you are in. And this, what made it Uber possible? The GPS, the Google Talk. You want me over here? The Google Maps and the mobile app stuff. Again, if you look at what Uber is able to do in terms of the carpooling, in terms of dynamic pricing, in terms of telling you an estimate of the time and the cost of your ride before itself, all of that stuff is intelligent automation. I think what's going to happen tomorrow with Uber, you never know. In my view, we're not even going to be using a mobile phone, by the way, to call a taxi. We'll just think about it, validate it, and it will come. There's Nexon Labs here in the city itself is right now doing something on mapping the brain wave and analyzing it. So companies like that will make the Uber experience even different within the next 2-3 years itself. Let me just talk a little bit about how this reimagining of business happens. Now, the reimagining of business, if you look at the stuff where it's KPMG, EY, Deloitte, BCG, Accenture, Fjord, Bain, these guys are the ones that have the trust of the client to be able to come in and help the client reimagine, dream about a consumer experience in any given domain. I mean, Accenture bought a company called Fjord, which is a design company. They bring the clients into the studio and ask the client to dream what they want the experience to be for their consumers. And most technology guys will say this cannot be implemented. This is crazy. But then what Accenture would do, and I was part of creating the open innovation platform in Accenture globally, is they would tap into their innovation network and see which company out there is there which has developed something unique that can be brought in to that realization of the dream itself. And I'll talk about as to how we all can create and tap into a network like that, even though we don't have the resources like Accenture to be able to create that network ourselves. The third thing is the intelligent automation that we saw in the Uber example. Now today, digital workers. I know previously we used to talk about offshoring so that we can actually have the labor arbitrage. Today, really speaking, the labor arbitrage is not important. I think today what we're trying to talk about is what part a human being does or human worker does and what part of work a digital worker does. The good thing about a digital worker is now the digital worker and the companies like Blue Prism, UiPath, Automation Anywhere are the ones that are building these digital workers. The thing is that because they collaborate with so many other companies, they have the knowledge and insight capability, which is pretty expensive in a human worker to be, learning, visual perception, problem solving, and planning, and lots of other things. So it's a very powerful digital worker. Actually, I'll make a statement that anything that a human worker can do in front of a computer can be done by a digital worker, and even more. The good thing with a digital worker is once you train the digital worker, one digital worker, you can deploy in a matter of seconds without any additional cost 500 of those to do a process. Just imagine the power of that stuff. They don't go on vacation, you don't have to retrain them, none of that stuff. So it's a very, very serious thing right now is everyone has to start thinking about a workforce that comprises significantly with digital workers. And by the way, don't ask this question as to what will happen to my employees in this organization. Today, the entire industry globally has about 6 million people. And the forecast is that by 2025 or so, there'll be 260 million people required with tech-augmented skills. So 6 million people can actually do work which is 10 times more with the same number of people. And I'll come to an example where this has come extremely true. This example, I'm very, very excited about for multiple reasons. So this is something that I did last year for one of the top 3 banks in the US at the call of one of the big 4 companies, the accounting firms like KPMG and Deloitte, et cetera. And they were going to refuse doing this stuff because the big bank asked the top IT companies and they asked some of the big 4s to come and bid for this. We'd take away the entire 2,000 people which were doing KYC and anti-money laundering stuff, big regulatory stuff, by the way, big risky stuff, and say, take it away, the people as well in the US, and do it for us. The regulators were asking them to do certain more things which would quadruple their workforce. And they obviously did not want to do that. The bottom line is, in spite of the fact that we had big IT companies doing it, we won the deal. And we won the deal by knowing, the client knew that I was not an employee of the big 4. They knew who I was, though. And the client knew we were bringing a startup, Amberoon, which has got an insight-based AML software, brought the Fortify-D, which actually does a great way of doing KYC automated, and Blue Prism for the automation stuff. So it was a collaborative solution. We got a BPM company to take over the entire workforce in the US because this big 4 company didn't want the BPO guys on their payroll. And so it was a solution that was done through a lot of moving parts, if you may. A lot of times people say there are so many moving parts, no client would like that. This is a top 3 US bank. Today, I think Carrie talked about GSK embracing the startups, doing things like paying things in 14 days, making the contract 4 pages, and talking about the RFP process to be 3 months rather than 12 months. All of these things are there to encourage working with startups, by the way. So the biggest of the companies are very, very open. Even the regulators in the US, for example, have said regarding the AML, KYC, things like that, we encourage you to work with startups. We'll give you some leeway if something goes wrong, by the way. So what I'm trying to say is that don't give an excuse that we are small companies and we cannot work with large clients. Large clients are looking for companies like yourself to be able to do something like this. Another example, quick one, is something that I did early this year, with one of the large manufacturing companies in ball bearing. And they were being asked by the clients to put a lot of information on their websites to collaborate with them. What we did was not just automate the process they were following, we reimagined the entire supply chain. Things that they were not even doing today, we added on to a lot more. And we automated the things right for the client and back to the supplier stuff. And this was just one thing. But right now, we have put plans in place to do 10 more things in the next 12 months. Really speaking, if we did not do this, we would just be doing that one thing and not even get to the second thing. So right now, we're going to get 10 times more value out of this thing for literally almost no additional investment in that stuff. And this really will transform the way the collaboration happens with the client. Just another example on healthcare. This is just for you guys to think through. Just imagine that we will not really, in the very near future, in the 2-3 years, go to a doctor very often, go to the hospital. Let's say if you are a cardiac patient and you have an Apple Watch or something device like that, which takes your ECG, transmits the data to the cloud. There's 1 million people data out there. It analyzes your stuff, knows exactly who you are, and based on your signal can know whether you increase the dose, decrease the dose. It knows that you may be getting a heart attack, for example, and if you don't respond to it, to go to the hospital, they can even send you an ambulance to take you to the hospital, by the way. So things are going to change very, very quickly, and this is not going to take 5-10 years. This is going to happen in the next 3 years itself. All of this stuff, I'm pretty happy that I'll be launching a book or publishing a book in the next month or so that's going to come out, which has some of these stories about how to innovate at scale for large corporations. So thank you.